Before we start our story today, please like and subscribe to our channel. It will help the channel grow, and we could bless more to our charity organization in need. And thank you for your support. Ukraine, fighting Russia with drones, is rewriting the rules of war. The same quadcopters you can buy at Amazon are on the front lines of the battle for Ukraine. An unmanned combat aerial vehicle, UCAV, also known as a combat drone, colloquially shortened as drone or battlefield UAV, is an unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV, that is used for intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition and reconnaissance and carries aircraft ordnance such as missiles, ATGMs, and/or bombs and hardpoints for drone strikes. These drones are usually under real-time human control, with varying levels of autonomy. Unlike unmanned surveillance and reconnaissance aerial vehicles, UCAVs are used for both drone strikes and battlefield intelligence. Aircraft of this type have no onboard human pilot. As the operator runs the vehicle from a remote terminal, equipment necessary for a human pilot is not needed, resulting in a lower weight and a smaller size than a manned aircraft. Many countries have operational domestic UCAVs, and many more have imported armed drones or are in the process of developing them. History of combat drones. One of the earliest explorations of the concept of the combat drone was by Lee De Forest, an early inventor of radio devices, and U.A. Sanabria, a TV engineer. They presented their idea in an article in a 1940 publication of Popular Mechanics. The modern military drone as known today was the brainchild of John Stewart Foster Jr., a nuclear physicist and former head of the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, then called the Lawrence Radiation Laboratory. In 1971, Foster was a model aeroplane hobbyist, and had the idea this hobby could be applied to building weapons. He drew up plans and by 1973 DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, built two prototypes called Prairie and Calera. They were powered by a modified lawnmower engine, and could stay aloft for 2 hours, while carrying a 28-pound, 13 kilograms, load. In the 1973 Yom Kippur War, Israel used unarmed U.S. Ryan Firebee target drones to spur Egypt into firing its entire arsenal of anti-aircraft missiles. This mission was accomplished with no injuries to Israeli pilots, who soon exploited the depleted Egyptian defenses. In the late 1970s and 80s, Israel developed the Scout and the Pioneer, which represented a shift toward the lighter, glider-type model of UAV in use today. Israel pioneered the use of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, for real-time surveillance, electronic warfare, and decoys. The images and radar decoying provided by these UAVs helped Israel to completely neutralize the Syrian air defenses in Operation Mole Cricket 19 at the start of the 1982 Lebanon War, resulting in no pilots downed. In the late 1980s, Iran deployed a drone armed with 6 RPG-7 rounds in the Iran-Iraq War. Impressed by Israel's success, the U.S. quickly acquired a number of UAVs, and its Hunter and Pioneer systems are direct derivatives of Israeli models. The first UAV war was the First Gulf War. According to a May 1991 Department of the Navy report, at least one UAV was airborne at all times during Desert Storm. After the Gulf War successfully demonstrated its utility, global militaries invested widely in the domestic development of combat UAVs. The first kill by an American UAV was on October 7, 2001, in Kandahar. In recent years, the U.S. has increased its use of drone strikes against targets in foreign countries and elsewhere as part of the War on Terror. In January 2014, it was estimated that 2,400 people had died from U.S. drone strikes in 5 years. In June 2015, the total death toll of U.S. drone strikes was estimated to exceed 6,000. In 2020, Turkey became the first country to use UCAVs in a large, coordinated attack on a conventional battlefield when they attacked forces in Syria. They were used to attack enemy positions, to provide cover for ground forces, and to scout for artillery. Drones were used extensively in the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Azerbaijan's use of cheaper Turkish TB-2 drones was seen as crucial to their victory against the Armenian forces. Drones were also used extensively during the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. The video shows a Russian missile launcher sitting in the open. Suddenly, it is enveloped in a huge fireball. Ukrainian officials say what looked like a video game was actually the work of a small, relatively cheap Turkish-made drone that has had a surprisingly lethal impact on Russia forces. A U.S. defense official said Monday that Ukraine has made terrific use of Turkish Bayraktar TB-2 unmanned aerial vehicles, which can loiter over tanks and artillery and destroy them with devastatingly accurate missile fire. The official said the U.S. is working to help keep the drones flying. Ukraine received a new shipment of the drones this month, Ukraine's defense minister. He didn't say how many. It's unclear whether the U.S. has made efforts to facilitate the supply of the Turkish drone or other similar systems to Ukraine, in addition to the Javelin anti-tank and Stinger anti-aircraft missiles it is providing. Before the war began, military experts predicted that Russian forces would have little trouble dealing with Ukraine's complement of as many as 20 Turkish drones. With a price tag in the single-digit millions, the Bayraktars are far cheaper than drones like the U.S. Reaper, but also much slower and smaller, with a wingspan of 39 feet. As so often has been the case in this war, however, the experts misjudged the competence of the Russian military. It's quite startling to see all these videos of Bayraktars apparently knocking out Russian surface-to-air missile batteries, which are exactly the kind of system that's equipped to shoot them down, said David Hambling, a London-based drone expert. That is confounding, Hambling said, because the drones should be easy for the Russians to blow out of the sky or disable with electronic jamming. It is literally a World War I aircraft, in terms of performance, he said. It's got a 110 horsepower engine. It is not stealthy. It is not supersonic. It's a clay pigeon, a real easy target. If nothing else, the Russians should be able to down the drones with fighter jets, Hambling said. But without air superiority, Russia hasn't been flying regular combat air patrols. As for electronic jamming, one of the mysteries of the Ukraine invasion is why the Russians haven't made more use of what experts believe is their advanced electronic warfare capability. The bottom line is that the Turkish drones continue to star in videos shared across Twitter and other social media platforms that feature them blowing Russian vehicles to smithereens. Ukrainians have even praised them in song. It's unclear how many have been shot down, but some, at least, remain effective, U.S. officials said. It is puzzling, Hambling said. It may be massive incompetence by the Russians. It may be that the Ukrainians have discovered some sneaky tactics they can use. It's hardly the first time the Bayraktar has played an important role in an armed conflict. Azerbaijan used small Turkish-made drones to devastating effect against the Armenian military in 2020, bringing a decisive end to a stalemate over a disputed enclave that had gone on for years. The Turkish drones also had a significant impact in battles against Russian-made military gear in Libya and Syria. The drones are manufactured by Baykar Technology, whose chief technology officer, Selçuk Bayraktar, is a son-in-law of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. I'm sure it's going to be selling extremely well, Hambling said. Many experts have argued that another type of unmanned weapons system would be even more helpful to Ukrainian forces, a so-called kamikaze drone, a vehicle packed with explosives that is essentially a smart guided missile launched miles away from a target. Two Israeli companies make versions of those drones, the Harop and the Hero. The U.S. military fields a system called the Switchblade, the larger version of which can destroy tanks. That weapon isn't approved for export except to the UK. Turkey, which has sought to maintain friendly relations with both Russia and the West, was sanctioned by the US in December 2020 over its purchase of Russian S-400 missile defense systems. Erdogan declined to say Monday whether Turkey would buy more Russian weapons. Under the current circumstances, it would be premature to talk about what the future shows right now, he said Monday during a visit to Germany, according to Reuters. We have to see what the conditions bring. We have to maintain our friendship with Mr. Zelensky and Mr. Putin. Drones have played a starring role in Ukraine's defense against the ongoing Russian attack. Before the invasion, experts believed Russia's own fleets of killer robots were likely to be a far more potent weapon, but to date they have hardly been seen. What's going on? Ukraine's drone program grew from a crowd-funded group of hobbyists, who appear to know and like their technology, even if it isn't the cutting edge. Russia, on the other hand, seems to have swarms of next-generation autonomous weapons, but generals may lack faith in the technology. Drone versus drone. Ukraine is using Turkish Bayraktar TB-2 armed drones, provided under a deal inked last year. Operated by a crew on the ground, these are essentially remote-controlled planes armed with rockets or missiles. Ukraine is also using commercially available drones. Less is known about Russia's drones, particularly new models with artificial intelligence (AI) capabilities. Last year, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced the creation of a special AI department with its own budget, which would begin its work in December 2021. Just before invading Ukraine, Russian forces were seen testing new swarm drones, as well as unmanned autonomous weapons capable of tracking and shooting down enemy aircraft. However, there is no evidence they have been used in Ukraine for that purpose. This isn't the first time these types of drones with lethal capability have featured on the world stage. Russia deployed interceptor drones to defend against hostile aircraft when it annexed Crimea in 2014, and, in 2020, Azerbaijan used drones against Armenia during the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. And the US has committed to providing Ukraine access to its highly portable suicide drone, the Switchblade. Are drones the future of warfare? The world has been grappling with the concept of killer drones for more than 2 decades. Despite international and domestic law concerns, defense forces around the world are investing heavily in autonomous weapon technologies because they cost far less than a similar crude weapon, like a tank or aircraft, and don't place drivers or pilots at risk. As military warfare becomes more technologically advanced than ever before, AI-powered drones are creating a new concept of power. As far back as 2017, Russian President Vladimir Putin said the development of AI raises colossal opportunities and threats that are difficult to predict, warning that the one who becomes the leader in this sphere will be the ruler of the world. The Russian leader predicted future wars would be fought by drones, and when one party's drones are destroyed by drones of another, it will have no other choice but to surrender. Homemade drones. Putin has previously identified the development of weapons with elements of AI as one of Russia's 5 major military priorities. Yet since Russia invaded Ukraine, it seems to be Ukrainian drones that are being used to greatest effect, predominantly by targeting Russian logistic elements supplying fuel or ammunition to frontline forces. Ukrainian soldiers have reportedly been using drones bought off the shelf to locate Russian military targets and to help coordinate artillery strikes. Reports have even emerged of Ukrainian soldiers jury-rigging explosives to homemade drones before flying them at Russian tanks. Footage of drone strikes are also proving a potent information weapon, with Ukrainian soldiers uploading them to social media. Where are Russia's drones? It's hard to know exactly why we haven't seen a Russian drone onslaught. One possible reason is that drones are being held in reserve for a later escalation in the conflict. Drones can deliver chemical, biological, or even nuclear weapons without endangering a human pilot, and Russia's current strategy suggests it may not shrink from using banned weapons. Another possible reason is logistics. Given widespread reports of Russian military vehicles breaking down, Russia may not be able to support drone operations in Ukraine. Our drones are our eyes, said one Ukrainian military officer, who's worked with drones since 2015 and spoke on condition of anonymity for security reasons. The Ukrainian military has no official drone unit, the officer said, but soldiers and civilians use them to see what's in the next village or along the next kilometer of road. If Russian artillery is preparing to strike, we can shift civilians. It's a possibility to make a preventive strike and to save Ukrainian people. From commercial quadcopters to fixed-wing military models, drones have proved important to Ukraine, giving its outgunned defense better chances against the huge Russian military. Early in the war, a civilian drone team called Aerorozvidka worked with military units to help Ukraine stall a convoy of armored vehicles headed toward Kyiv, the country's capital. During a nighttime ambush, the unmanned aircraft dropped small explosives on the lead vehicles, which along with mines caused a pileup. The team also helped Ukraine repel Russia's initial attempt to seize the airport near Kyiv. Unmanned aircraft have been used in warfare as far back as 1849. Japan sent balloon bombs over the Pacific Ocean to the US during World War II. The term drone became mainstream when General Atomics' hulking MQ-1 Predator and MQ-9 Reaper drones caught on in US wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. By 2011, the US military had 11,000 of the big, expensive systems. Rarely, however, have drones played the role they're taking on in the asymmetric war between Ukraine's low-budget forces and Russia's gargantuan military. Miniaturization has improved the cost, flight time and range of commercial drones, while Ukrainians have used military drones successfully against Russian armored vehicles that can cost millions of dollars. Drones are rewriting the rules of war. The Russians are a little behind in this game, and the Ukrainians have proved extremely inventive, Rands Parakini said. The drone advantage in Ukraine isn't permanent, as militaries add new abilities to destroy drones or jam the radio transmissions they rely on. And though Russian air defense systems apparently didn't work as well as expected in Ukraine, militaries are investing in counter-drone technology, Parakini said. Drones are dangerous to use in war, the Ukrainian officer added. Enemy forces can fire on operators when they see a drone take off, and can use DJI's aeroscope technology to locate drones. In Ukrainian we have a joke: every time we have a new mouse, someone will construct a new mouse catcher, the officer said. DJI didn't respond to a request for comment, but tweeted in response to Ukrainian criticism that military use of its drones is inappropriate. Expect the technological escalation to continue. One likely development is developing swarms of many interlinked drones that collectively will be harder to track and completely foil. You swarm 5,000 drones at $2,000 each into an area, said Dragonfly's Chell. How do you stop it? AeroVironment military drones head to Ukraine. Drones can occupy a middle ground between human-piloted aircraft and missiles. AeroVironment's Switchblade 300 and 600 models are loitering missiles that unfold their wings like a pocket knife with a lot of blades and can stay airborne until a targeting system tells them where to go. Why is trust so important? All modern military forces involve trust in subordinates to follow orders, and trust in commanders to give lawful orders. When a machine is used in the place of a human, a commander must be able to trust that machine as much as a human being. This produces significant problems. Researchers have long been aware of machine bias, the idea that we trust machines to make decisions, simply because they're machines. Yet misplaced trust in machines, especially if they are making life and death decisions, can have catastrophic results. One way to improve trust in military drones could be to limit them to simple roles. A drone acting simply as an airborne camera can't fake what it sees, whereas a drone scanning video footage to identify targets, what the military call a decision support system, is far more likely to make a fatal mistake. Another way to improve trust in drones is to refuse to arm them with lethal weapons, or program them to disarm enemy soldiers. In 2007, John Canning, a researcher at the Naval Surface Warfare Center, suggested future autonomous weapons might attack rifles or ammunition instead of attacking the human holding them. In the age of autonomous warfare, the limit will be how far we trust machines. As lethal drones become more common and familiar, how satisfied are we that these drones will make the right decisions? To use these weapons we will need to trust them, but first we will need to make sure that trust is justified. Thank you for watching and see you again for another interesting facts and stories.